CTR, CPC, ACOS. Did I just speak a foreign language? Find out. Episode 114 of Horrible Writing.
That will never work.
You can't publish that.
Seriously?
Don't.
Oh my God, that's other things you can do. That's bad.
You probably should find other hobbies. You ever learn to spell?
Stop. Well, you don't bother. I've seen better movies. Do you really want to? And my third grade, give it up.
Welcome to Horrible Writing, the rawest, most candid, in-your-face writing show on the interwebs because none of us have time to suck. Let's do this. Hey everybody, Paul Sading, your host. Welcome to episode 114, the last one of November. Wow, 2019. We're almost done. There's actually only one more episode in this season. I'm actually not going to do a weekly podcast through December. I'm going to do one wrap-up show for the year to culminating in that season 3, done, tap out, start season 4 in January. I hope, fingers crossed. So if you're enjoying the show, go let me know at Writing Horrible or at Paul Sading on Twitter, author Paul Sading on Facebook, on paulsading.com, wherever you find me. Reach out and let me know. Leave a rating and review for the show. That stuff matters. Check out Audio Fiction with Paul Sading. That's me. On any of your podcatchers. That's where I host all my fiction stuff, and which will be a bigger investment of my time in 2020. So, we're not talking about that stuff right now, but it's related because the laws of diminishing returns, right? You don't keep doing the same thing the same ways, processes or investment in something. If you've noticed that the return on that investment, whatever that return is diminishing. It's becoming a smaller and smaller piece of the pie each and every passing cycle, whether that cycle is a minute, an hour, a day, a month, whatever. But you can't know that unless you start approaching, or unless you approach your writing journey like a business. Now, I know I just turned off like 70% of the listening audience. Writers, creatives in general, we just don't like being told to be a business person as well. Well, unless you're one of the very, 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 very few people who get an actual traditional publishing deal that helps you live, or if you only publish whenever you feel like it and you love the job you're doing and it pays all the bills and this writing thing is just a thing you do on the side, yeah, those two populations aside, you guys get a pass. But for everybody else, even those of you who sign traditional deals, you need to know this stuff, because the very real reality is that even in the traditional side of the house, you're not getting the marketing that you need to have a well-selling book over the long haul. And the long haul for some people could be a month. You know, that publishing house puts that book out, and they don't have the budget or the personnel power to keep carrying that thing in the public's eyes. That's going to be down to the author, you, the traditionally published author who did not want to do this indie thing because it sounds like a heck of a lot of work. Well, now, even in your traditional deal, you've got to decide, wow, do I start doing this work and learning this thing, or do I let my book die? Each of us has to make that decision, including us, indies, us full up indies. Like, we're not going to let anybody stop us. We're going to go out there and publish indies. You too have got to treat this like a business. Now, this is where we typically get into some sketchy territory. And it gets sketchy because people don't like to be told things that they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear things that can contradict their beliefs. And I get it. We all have biases. Everybody has a bias. Everybody. If you're saying, no, I don't, yes, you do. You probably have 3 times as many if you're saying that. But we all do. And we don't like hearing things that are against our beliefs or they rub up against our beliefs in the wrong way. But that's where me, the decision maker, the manager in me comes back out into my writing life, and I go with objectivity. When that's the case, what's the objective, measurable data say? No time for feely stuff. This is all about objectivity. Here's a good example that usually gets people riled up. Unless you're a professional designer, you don't do your own book covers. It's very easy to tell when somebody has done their own book covers. I mean, it's very easy to tell. This stuff, it's almost insulting to say that you can't. And it really is. This is a writing podcast. I highly doubt I have a graphic designer who listens to this show. But it's an insult to these people who have education and training and hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of hours of practical experience at this stuff for us to roll in, make our own book covers, and claim that they're just as good. We wouldn't like it if graphic designers rolled in and said, hey, I threw 20,000 words down. I've got a real novel. Well, no, you don't. 1, 20,000 words doesn't qualify as a novel. 2, did you edit it about 300 times? And then did you get beta readers and their feedback? And then did you get an editor and you work? No, they just threw 20,000 words down and they've got a novel just like us. But that's what we do when we claim we can make our own book covers just as good as theirs. Now, with everything, there are exceptions. I don't dig absolutism. I think you got to be very careful with that. So, I'm sure there are some self-taught book covers from authors out there that are great. I'm sure there are authors who used to be graphic designers back in the day who still kept those skills sharp enough and relevant enough that they know what the trends are, that they make great book covers. Yes, I'm going to ignore that argument and just focus on the real argument, which is 9.9 out of 10 authors should not be making their own book covers. It's very easy to tell. Very easy to tell who did and who didn't. And they seem to be the staunchest people against the argument that their book cover is the reason why their book isn't selling. There's all kinds of reasons, and they get all sorts of frustrated, but they don't want to hear the reality that it's probably their book cover. And the thing is that what I have found is that these are the types of people who don't dive into the data, so they don't know. Willful or not, they choose to remain in the dark on what the data actually says. This is where we have to take our writing hat off and we have to become business people. We have to, unless you literally don't care about selling books. But you can't have it both ways. You can't complain that your books aren't selling, have a crappy cover that looks homemade, self-made, and then complain that your books aren't selling. If you're going to do those things and you're not diving into the business, then just don't complain, accept it that you're not selling books, and we all move on. But that's not what a lot of people do, unfortunately. And there's good reason. The writing business is exhausting enough to bleed on the page and then put it out there in the world. And then to have to take that hat off and become a business person to analyze how well your book is moving can be difficult. It can be discouraging. It can obliterate writing dreams. I'm not going to lie. You have to be ready for this thing. So here's my practicum, if you will. Get in early. The first time you've got something out there in the market space, start collecting data. You can do this in newsletters, joining group giveaways, and tracking open rates and response rates and download rates. And how many people are downloading that free novelette or novella or novel that you put in that group giveaway? And how many signups have you had to your newsletter in that same exact phase, right? This isn't concrete stuff, but this is objective. You still have to be analytical. You have to be deductive. You have to look at what the data is telling you and start analyzing what it means. Another way, you got that thing out there on Amazon for 99 cents. Start buying really cheap ads, or if you've got the budget, buy a little more expensive ads so you get more impressions, so you have a better data set, and start tracking things like that. How many impressions are you getting? How many impressions are you not getting? What's the click-through rate? How many people are actually seeing that ad for that book and actually clicking on it to see what the book is all about? What is your cost per click? Is it healthy? Or is it something you're not going to be able to sustain without pulling away from your kid's college fund? And understanding what ACOS is. That's another thing, that cost of sales measure that so many people don't understand. One of the things that I committed to this past summer of 2019 was to get serious about ads, to start building them and tracking them. And I do that. I track them every day. I don't build new ads every day. I don't have a back catalog that would even remotely justify it. But in the short time that I've been tracking ads every day, I've learned more in the past 2 months than the previous 13 as a published author because of daily tracking of ads and ad performance. I fit it in right at the end of close to the end of my day when I'm throttling back and starting to chill. Before I completely go into chill mode, I've just moved to the couch. I pop on Netflix to have background noise, and I will sit there on my laptop with my spreadsheets open for each one of my books and the ads platform open, and I will transfer that data into my spreadsheets, and I will continue with ads and kill ads based on the data there, which has been really nice because in the mornings before my writing session, while my brain is waking up, I update my sales rank tracker for those books. So I have those two measures, one at the beginning and one at the end of my day to keep tracking things. And the ads impression stuff sure helps a lot when it comes to anticipating what my sales are going to be. Before I tracked ads on a nightly basis, the sales thing was not necessarily the best way to start my day when you run through 4 books and you haven't sold a single one. And now you got to go pull up a Word doc at 5 a.m. when you're exhausted and you could be sleeping, but you're going to chase this dream. And now you've got no sales. Kind of really hurts that momentum. So at least now I'm prepared for the new days because I've seen the impressions. I've seen those click-throughs. I can guess what the sales data is going to be depending on how bad all that data lags. There's a lot to learn, a lot. And I have 2 business degrees. These terms I am very familiar with. I geek out about this. If you're not, your degree is in psychology, you're a teacher, you're a mechanic, you don't even have a degree, you're a skilled laborer, wherever you would be. Maybe you've never been in the job market. Tell you what, empowerment through candor, you need to start learning these terms. You need to start understanding what they mean and the implications to your book's health. It will tell you everything you need to know, but you need to know to make wise business decisions. That's what this is about. You've got to put your business person hat on. When do you do that? Look at your day. Are you writing every day? 1 word to 10,000 words, I don't care. Are you writing every day? Good. Don't interrupt that writing time. But when are you going to do this business stuff? If you have a crazy job and a horrible commute and young kids, you might not be able to sit down until 9 o'clock at night and you're exhausted and you're asleep 15 minutes after you sit down. So maybe you do have to sacrifice 20 minutes of your writing time to make sure that you take care of this business stuff. Or maybe you can stop going out with the office for lunch, go out to your car or the picnic table outside, grab the Wi-Fi, whatever you got to do, go to lunch by yourself and update your data, track your data, see how things are performing. It's all about that flexibility. It's about being a creative business person. And that's what the marketplace calls for. The days, I'm going to be very real, even though I don't think a lot of people who think like this actually are listening to this podcast, especially by now, unless this is your first episode. If it is, welcome. But the days of dropping a manuscript in an agent's lap and them touring it around the publishing houses, touting how awesome you are, and the publishing houses giving you that big old fat royalty check and that advance, and you just sitting there in your jammies punching out the next novel, those days are gone. It's gone. It's not coming back unless something happens. Some horrific tragedy happens. We are in the digital age, the age of the internet, of satellites beaming our signals around the world in the blink of an eye. And if all of that changes, we've got bigger things to worry about than book sales. So at this point, it's really get on the wagon and evolve into this creative business person, or accept that it has passed you by and you're okay with it passing you by. You have to take ownership, and that if your books never sell, you're at peace with that. We all have decisions to make. We all control these aspects. It's just about being real and being honest with ourselves. Now that I've been real and honest with you, I hope that you have found this helpful. This won't be the end of this conversation, but your homework assignment is to understand, be able to brief me. I could tweet at you or call you out in the Horrible Writing group on Facebook. But if I called you out, you could get on a Facebook live stream and explain click-through rate, cost per click, and ACoS to me. You got 1 week. Go be epic.
Transcription by Renzi Lee over at Renzi Lee Freelancing. For fast turnaround times on content writing, transcription, and editing services, email Renzi at renzileefreelancing@gmail.com.
This has been Horrible Writing, and hopefully after this episode, you suck less than you did at the beginning. I am Paul Sading, your host extraordinaire. You can find me over on the Twitterverse at Writing Horrible and over at paulsading.com/horrible-writing. Until next time, suck less.